Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen podcast. We are here to talk Liverpool with a nice little sprinkling of Euro stuff as well, because I think it's relevant. I'm Paul Machin, Chris Pajak is here with me. We've got Ben Kelly and John Machin as well on the show today. Our kickoff question comes from Ian Bolts. We'll come to that in a second. We're going to be discussing, for those of you who just want to skip ahead, to be honest after the fact, that we're going to be discussing Nico Williams and our positive he wants to press for a move away from Liverpool after the Euros and what that means. The problems with shopping at major tournaments, and how Liverpool can exploit that to their benefit, and a little bit more about the captain, the wonderful man himself, Jordan Henderson, later on as well. But yes, the kickoff question from son of a teacher man, Ian Bolt says, given the fume over Rafa and the Ev, which former rival manager would you have been okay with as our manager afterwards in their prime? Brackets in their prime still, Chris.
Right, I'm going to need to put a little bit of context around it because...
You're going to say Alex Ferguson?
No.
Because
I think he was past his prime when he left them anyway.
Yeah.
It would have been Jose Mourinho for me.
Yeah.
But well before we saw what happened to Jose Mourinho, so obviously in the prime, but also I would never have gone from Klopp to Mourinho. It would have always a choice that I would have made before I'd seen Jurgen Klopp as Liverpool manager, because up until that point we were just perennial losers, weren't we, essentially? And we'd never really gone and won things. Whereas even now, I wouldn't go from Jurgen Klopp to Prime Mourinho. I'd rather just keep with Jurgen Klopp. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but before Jurgen Klopp, I would have gone Jose Mourinho.
That's an interesting shout. Yeah, very much. I mean, it's mad because he was very much in the running prior to, with the time when Benitez come in as well. But now we know he's a class A gobshite as well. Although I must admit, I find him. I'd love to go for a pint with Jose Mourinho. Yeah, it'd be fascinating. Ben, who's your rival manager? Who you would have been
I'm in the same boat. I assume that I thought we were picking a moment in time to then pick that manager to come in. So I'd have Jose Mourinho instead of Roy Hodgson in 2011. That's when I'd pick a prime Jose Mourinho to come into Liverpool.
Right.
I quite like Jose Mourinho. I know he can be a little bit hot-headed, and he has his moments where he's a little bit of an arsehole. But I overall think he's a really interesting guy to listen to. He's a really nice guy off the pitch. I know that. And yeah, I think arguably, one of the most successful. I say arguably, definitely one of the most successful managers in my generation. Growing up, it was Jose Mourinho at Chelsea, and if Liverpool were gonna go for a manager at any point, I wouldn't have him now. If we were offering me a 2010 Jose Mourinho now and the style of play, you think about the way he played at Inter Milan and the Champions League semi-final against Barcelona, where he's putting 10 men behind the ball and he's shithousing a win that way. I don't know if I'd swap that over the way Jurgen Klopp played, but it was definitely better than the way Roy Hodgson played. So I'd have him at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, but very the same as Roy Hodgson, except he won big
he silverware.
Is the difference. Dad, who'd you go for?
Yeah, sorry being boring, but it would have been Jose Mourinho. It's
a lot of more casual love for Jose Mourinho than I expected.
He turned out to be a horrible, person and manager, but that's probably because of his experience. And if he'd come to Liverpool, he may well have turned out to be different.
You're right. He's had his heart broken. Yeah. He's had his heart broken too many times.
I've hated his guts since the moment he came to Anfield and had his team coached to waste time from the very first second. I've never seen anything so horrendous in my life that anyone could stoop that low. So I've hated him ever since. But before that, I always thought, he is a winner, and that's what Liverpool needed because we just didn't win anything. So he was perfect for us at one point in time, but certainly not now.
Yeah, well, yeah, actually, it's an interesting point. That if people watching, let me know yours in the comments, because I agree with that. The Mourinho stuff. You're talking about 13-14, the run-in where Chelsea had their title challenge was done, and he just decided to spoil ours because that's how Mourinho had become by that point, the great spoiler. But no, I think that's a reasonable shout.
What you come for?
I say I'm at a point in my life now where, and we'll do a little bit on the Benitez stuff after the break because we've not really discussed it on anything. But I'm not asked for the rivalry stuff anymore. I mean, as long as someone's like a fit, and so like the Alex Ferguson, I was part joking, but like if you could have snatched the prime Alex Ferguson, there's no way that Liverpool fans wouldn't have bought into Fergie the same way that United fans bought into Fergie if he'd been Liverpool manager and not ours. This idea of like, it's just I think a lot of fume stems from a place of when you've said lots of things and then you have to backtrack, or you have to live in a world where you've said really horrible things about someone and then all of a sudden you've got to find a way to like them, and it's more about you feeling bad than it is about anything else. But to be honest, the simple answer probably is most recent managers defo Mourinho. I don't have strong feelings about anyone.
I'm shocked that no one's gone Guardiola, to be honest with you. I mean, he's one of the best managers of all time.
I don't think of him that way. It's weird. I like, he doesn't enter into my, you know, when you think about rivalries, and he should do, but I don't. It's weird how Spurs as well. City don't, and maybe it's not true for everyone else, but they don't engage my brain in that same way of things. It's weird.
It's mad because, like, for the last 3 years, you know, that there's a historical rivalry with Man United, but there was no 3 years back to back of us going toe to toe with Manchester United in the Premier League era, and yet we've had that with Manchester City every season for the last 3. You know what I mean? And yet I'm in the same boat. I didn't pick Guardiola, and yet probably a better manager than Jose Mourinho was.
Yeah.
Just surprising that none of us did.
Yeah, no, very interesting stuff. Let us know in the comments. Right, yes, we are going to be talking. We'll talk a little bit about the Rafa to the Ev stuff because I think it's actually just hilarious. But we are going to take a very short break. But we've got a great little clip here from the Hold the L show this week. Chris and I have been regular contributors to the Super 6 YouTube channel. At the back end of the season, the boys over there talking a little bit about England. Go over there and check it out.
The reason I know you wanted to ask that question, Flav, why did I choose Belgium? I'll answer it, no problem.
Is it because they're number one in the world?
Well, that's one of the reasons. Thanks, Flav. You've done my job for me. But look, they're number one in the world for a reason. That means they've got the best record over the last couple of years. That's the long and short of it. Look, the Euro qualifying record, they had near perfect. They won 10 out of 10. They've absolutely hammered teams for fun. But more importantly, tournament experience, because they actually had a really, really good run over the last couple of years. And the players that they have at the moment are actually playing, besides Eden Hazard, who's now, of course, coming back to form and looking a lot fitter than he did before. But they've got players like Lukaku and, of course, Kevin De Bruyne, who's at their best at the moment. And that's ultimately going to be the factor. Who's actually going to show up when it matters? Who's going to have a backline that can withstand a lot of pressure? They have that. Jan Vertonghen. They have Denea, who's actually been, I think, besides one or two players, many people say the best defender in League One last season, which is incredible. Obviously, the midfield is packed and stacked, and they have a goalkeeper that won the Golden Gloves 2018 in the World Cup. So that's Thibaut Courtois, who had a bit of a shaky time in club level, but for his country has been incredible. So let's be honest. Look, Belgium need to prove it in world level. They haven't done it yet. They are the only one of the big sides that haven't really done that yet, of course, besides England. Belgium are going to do it in the next couple of weeks. You're going to see that.
Yeah, go and check out the Hold the L show over on the Super 6 YouTube channel. Head over there, drop a like, leave a little comment reaction to what they're discussing, and say that the Redmen sent you as well.
It was a good show this week. I watched it. I couldn't tell you what they all wanted. They seem to change their mind quite often. I know Flav was very much in the England camp. He still thinks football's coming home. Fair play to him. It's
home. They're playing games at Wembley in the Euros. Just enjoy it. Fucking hell. If you want more, I quote the great Ian Rush, and years ago when he spoke about the England thing, and he's like, why do England fans get so wound up, and why do they fume and they sack managers when they don't win things? England are seeded to get to the semi-finals of Euros and the quarters of World Cups, and if they ever manage to get, if they do that, then that's like, they're doing the job. If they manage to get beyond it, then it's exceptional. But that's what England are meant to do. I do find it a bit mad.
I think they get annoyed because they get knocked out by like Croatia when Croatia go to World Cup finals instead of them.
Someone, England player, makes a villain of themselves. There's some sort of dodgy refereeing decision, and so someone gets yawn.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, whatever. The couple of comments before we move on. We got Jason Yarison just tested positive for COVID. Cheers for sorting me out with a podcast, gents. All the best. No problem, Jason. Hope you feel better soon.
You feel better, mate.
And
does he think it's going to last 10 days?
What?
Does he think the podcast's going to last?
Oh, yeah. He's going to draw it out. He's going to do a minute a day for the...
I thought John had gone pure COVID scam then. There's a turn up for the book.
Yeah, oh my God, revelation out of nowhere. And I want to give a special award. We've never done this before. I want to give a special award to Football Watch Along for asking and answering a question in the same sentence. He says, I know the COVID situation has hit every football club financially, but why is Liverpool scared to spend big? Right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk Rafa Benitez. And the question, the answer that Chris raised is that, Rafa would be a good answer to the question because he's now, he's managed Chelsea and Napoli, but rivalries with both of those clubs. I have dined on the Everton fume for a few days last week, Chris. I think it's been absolutely delicious in the absence of proper Liverpool and proper football and all that kind of stuff. There's lots of people who've been quite negative around it and very staunch, like, oh, I could never see Rafa manage Everton, it's a disgrace, blah, blah, blah. I think, actually, I've been surprised how much that's been in the minority in some regards. I just like the fact that it's been overwhelming. I love Rafa. I don't want him as Liverpool manager again. I wish him all the best if he wants to go to Everton and stay local and all that kind of stuff. Then great. They're cutting the grass outside. I love the fact that it's been well more welcomed by Liverpool fans who should be fuming and not by Everton fans who should be made up that a European Cup winning manager wants to manage their team. But instead they're writing offensive banners on bed sheets, which is also fucking hilarious because it's something they give us loads of stick for. It's just been delicious, the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they've had a European Cup winning manager recently. That's I think part of the problem, isn't it? What I think that for me anyway, I can only talk for myself on this, is the fact that because Rafa won the European Cup for us, there is a lot of people, and I'm in quite a few groups on Facebook and stuff where there has been a lot of kickoffs about it. And you see, I looked at the replies and most of the people were going, it's fine. Like, I'm actually happy that he liked the city and the people so much that his family have always lived there. Like, he's never moved them away. That tells you more about the city than anything else. So I'm kind of more proud that he wanted to stay around because he loves the people in the city, because I'm proud of the people in the city.
Yeah.
And it's boss that someone from Spain can get onto that and decide that that's where they want to be forever and raise their children. And listen, he'd have taken the Tranmere job to stay at home. Like, you know what I mean?
I said this, if Tranmere were in the championship, if Tranmere were a mid-table championship side, I've no doubt Rafa would have a punt at them at some point in his career. He might yet.
I also think that, like, it would have turned sour Benitez's side. Like, I genuinely think after 6 months he'd have just gone, he's a fucking weird, and walked out. Like, what's this about? Why can't I have red baubles on my Christmas tree? It's the colours of Christmas. It's not. If I had Liverpool branded baubles, have a go at me, but it's fucking red and gold.
Chris, they do the Santa Dash, which is an annual race held in Liverpool. For people to do, it's like a fun run where people dress as Father Christmas and Evertonians wear blue Father Christmas hats and suits. They have to get specially made blue Father Christmas stuff to run a charity fun run. You're right. It's weird.
One time I was filming outside of Goodison for uni. I was doing a story about the new ground, and I had red Adidas shoes on, and an Everton fan refused to speak to me because I had red Adidas shoes on. That's not a joke. I said to him, "Do you mind? I'm just doing a piece on the new ground. Have you got 30 seconds?" He went, "You are red. You've got red shoes on." And I went, "Yeah." And he went, "I'm not talking to you then."
You gave yourself away, mate. That's the thing.
I know, but I thought
no Evertonian would ever wear red shoes. So. It was like a slap in the face.
No, but it wasn't anything mean. I was just, it was a news report. It wasn't like I was laughing at them. But yeah,
you need to learn bipartisanship, Ben. If you want to be a journalist, you got to be more.
That was when it really hit home for me, just how mad it is.
There's loads of there's loads of clubs in the country or cities in the country that have a team with red and blue. Like the Chelsea fans do the same. They go round in blue Santa outfits and put blue baubles on the trees. The Man City fans, like...
Pop Man City fans probably, because they're fucking weirdos as well. Not in a general sense. But loads of other clubs have it as like their away kits and that, don't they? So like Rangers wear blue, but then they always have red away kits, and Chelsea have had red away kits and stuff like that. So, but it's mad how I wonder whether the cities where they have, and that's why I think Man City might be one of the rare examples. Maybe Newcastle as well. I don't know. Like, they see anything red and white striped? They see deck chairs? Do they flip out? Like, you know what I mean? They see like they can't sit on red and white deck chairs at the beach because it's a major issue. I really don't know. Go on, Dad. What's your thoughts on the Rafa stuff?
I sort of have a feel like it's him coming home to retire. You know, He's coming home to where he lives to be with his family, and he's found himself a little job round the corner.
Is that like dogs? The dogs come home to die? Is that what, or was it cats?
Yeah, it's like my brother always said, "Oh, when I retire, I'll be a postman." And he never did do that, but I mean, that's what he used to say. And I can imagine, it's like that for Rafa. I still want to do a bit of football, so I think Everton do that, don't they?
Part time.
And talking about Tranmere, I can see him doing that too. In his dotage, thinking, I'll go just pop around there, help them out for a bit. Get them promotion, and before I pack it in all together.
Why haven't you given me 30 million to spend, Tranmere?
Yeah.
You knobheads. Leave them.
Yeah, call Mark Palios a prick in fucking
why you give me a lampshade instead of a left back? I don't know. It's I think whatever he wants to do, he deserves it.
Yeah,
he spent his whole life earning money to keep his family, and he's been all over the world, and he's been away from them lots of times. So he's now got an opportunity to be able to sleep in his own bed every night. Well, fine, I'm fine with that. I understand why Evertonians aren't, and in their circumstances, I'd probably be livid as well. But I'd be like Chelsea. I mean, they hated his guts from the moment he walked in till the day he left, and he won them a UEFA Cup, and they still hated his guts. But if Everton get a cup out of him, then why not?
The one thing that gets me on this is that, and it's a bit of a stretch, but there's something that with when Ancelotti came in, having Klopp and Ancelotti in the City, I think had the potential. I think COVID totally undermined this, to kind of bridge the gap between the clubs a little bit, and obviously in terms of football in terms, but also in terms of just a little bit of mutual respect, which I think has just gotten lost over the years. And having someone like, and again, this would require Evertonians to buy into Rafa, which I'm not sure is possible. But the fact that Rafa has a respect for Liverpool, Klopp has a respect for Everton. I know you wouldn't think it in some of the team selections he's put out against them, but he's not. He has banter with Evertonians in the City. You see it with Klopp. He just loves the people. Rafa has a bit of that, and there'll be something to the perfect man to kind of bridge the gap of Rafa, because he's so well beloved by us. If he was at the top of his game, I think we'd probably have more problems with it, so we're a bit more forgiving. But if he was to go over and win a trophy with Everton and conduct himself with some dignity in doing it, the harsh edge between the two clubs might just get filed down a bit, which I think could benefit the City.
It might do. I mean, my thing is, I don't think it's professionally the right move for Rafa, to be honest. I think from the outside looking in, it looks like it's Marcel Brand's sort of baby at the moment, and he's the one who decides who it is. And I think Rafa would probably want a little bit more control, or the Rafa that I knew would want more control anyway. He may have dulled himself over the years and not be so sort of aggressive with it and stuff, but he always picks terrible owners of football clubs. So the fact that he's talking to Everton says to me, you've got a terrible owner, because he's been to Newcastle, he's been to Inter Milan, he's been to Real Madrid, he's been to Chelsea. They're all the worst owners of football clubs. They get rid of managers for all kinds of stuff. I just think the relationship wouldn't really have a chance to bloom, as it were. He wouldn't be there long enough, I don't think. And could you imagine them losing a derby against us, and how the fans would feel about that? Yeah. That would be atrocious for them. You'd almost have to put Duncan in charge for 2 games a year just to get the fans on side with you.
Yeah.
Take yourself out of the equation.
Yeah, the Rafa Benitez, Agent Rafa Benitez Christmas sweatshirts and Redmen this year are going to be absolutely fucking spectacular if that happens. Yeah, I just think it's interesting because it's not gone away, Ben. There was, it reared its head. It looked very much set to happen last week. Then you had Keys and Gray just fuming all over the place, which is just hilarious to the last, trying to say Rafa's like, past it and past his best coming from them two is just genuinely amazing. It's like fossils getting angry at a really old dog or something, and it's like, mate, you're literally billions of years out of date yourself. But it's not going away. It's come back again. They haven't got anyone. The Spurs stuff has almost taken everyone's attention away from this, I think, because Spurs are just, I seem to have a bit more media glare on them. They're both doing this dreadfully in the manager hunt.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, Spurs in particular, I think obviously, the term Spursy has never really reigned so true. It's just ridiculous that the way that they've been doing it. The whole Gattuso thing and the way that they were in talks with him, and then this Roma manager that they've not been able to get hold of, and all of this, it must be. I think it is partly down to the owners. I don't think anybody wants to work with Daniel Levy in particular, and Tottenham in itself is a sinking ship at the moment. If Harry Kane, wants the way out and all of that, but from Everton's perspective, I think it's a massive job, and that's part of the problem, because I know that Steven Gerrard was linked at first, which obviously we would have been having a similar conversation than we are now, but it's too big of a job for Steven Gerrard. There's just so much to do at Everton, to get the fans on side, to get the right players in, to get that monkey off the back with the trophy and stuff. And I think from a Everton standpoint, I think Rafa Benitez is a good choice. But I agree with Chris where it's a poison chalice for somebody like Rafa Benitez and the history that he's got, and I don't think he'd be allowed the time to do what Everton need him to do. If it was the exact same, if you were talking about a manager with the exact same credentials as Rafa Benitez, except for the Liverpool thing, all these top clubs he's managed, all the trophies he's won, he would be the perfect fit for Everton because he knows how to win things, and he'd come in and he'd probably achieve that. I mean, I thought that with Ancelotti, but and to be fair, I think Ancelotti would have won them a trophy eventually. But because it's Rafa Benitez and because of the history that he's got, he's already on the clock from day one. He's already under pressure to deliver because of the relationship he's got with Liverpool. It just wouldn't work.
He's not soft though, is he?
Right, isn't he? Ben's right. If you took out the emotional bit about Liverpool and Everton were just looking for the best manager they could possibly get, then eventually they'd end up with Benitez. I mean, they'd try Conte and all the rest of them, who probably wouldn't come. And you'd end up with Benitez. And the fact that obviously the fans hate his guts and don't want him says more about them than anything else, really. I mean, do they want the best for the club or don't they,
Yeah.
Can I just sort of interject here? I don't think he's that good anymore, Rafa Benitez. I think you've seen that. I think we've seen half a decade of him, 3 years at Newcastle, a couple of years in China, not really doing anything. Now, he's 61 years old as well. Has he got a big 5 years in him? I'm not sure that he has. And I think that might be part of the reason why I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Because his best days are long gone.
Oh, God, 100%.
Like, you know what I mean?
No, but this is the point.
And now, if it was Steven Gerrard, I'd be up in arms, by the way. Because I think Steven Gerrard is on an upwards trajectory, and I don't want him doing well for Everton.
Yeah.
And that tells me that I don't think Rafa's as good as he was.
And you're absolutely spot on, 100%. Because I agree. Because when Ben mentioned the Gerrard stuff, I was thinking this through, and I was like, here's the thing: if Gerrard went to Everton, that would be saying to me he's not good enough to ever manage Liverpool, and therefore I would probably be okay with it. That's the point. Is the kind of thinking on this, and that's the point about it. I'm only cool with Rafa going to Everton because Rafa's not good enough to be the Liverpool manager anymore. It's the borderline thing. We're never going to get him back, and if we might get to a position down the line where we're back, we've dropped down a tier or whatever, and we could do. Rafa might be a really good manager for us again. I can't see that, but you never know. But we've moved beyond. That's the only reason. I'm honestly, I'm kind of being quite like, Rafa, wish him all the best. If he just come off the back of winning the European Cup with Napoli, and then he was going to Everton, I might be a little bit. Even then, I probably wouldn't, because Klopp's, we play a better brand of football. We've got a better manager. He's actually Rafa. He's an even better fit than Rafa, who was a perfect fit for us at the time as well. So yeah, no, I think that's it. I think that is an interesting.
I don't actually buy that Rafa's not any good anymore. I mean, who knows what the hell goes on in China, and why would he want to put his heart and soul into it? But he did the best he possibly could at Newcastle. I don't think there was a manager in the world who could have got any better than what Rafa did there in the circumstances. Because that's even worse than Everton. That's a total basket case of a club.
Yeah.
So, I think he's got a lot to offer still. And I think he'd do really well at Everton. If the fans let him, I'm not sure they will.
My thing with the Newcastle is, I expected it to fall apart when Steve Bruce was the manager, because Rafa was holding that club together, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, ooh, what does that say about Rafa?
Yeah. Well, we said
that Steve Bruce was able to do just as well with that side.
Well, we had this chat the other day that Bruce got backed and Rafa never, and now you can argue that then you're into the world of, is it because Rafa is how he is and that's why he didn't get backed and blah blah blah? No, it's because the fans revolted, because they wanted Rafa to stay, and Rafa had his hand forced and was kicked out, and so they had no choice but to give Bruce some backing.
But the money that he spent a lad that didn't play very well for
God,
Rafa's squad anyway.
No, absolutely.
And did just as well with the same players.
But again, it's one of them, isn't it? We'll see, I guess, on the Bruce. But the Rafa thing, I agree. I think the idea that he's not going to win the European Cup with the team ever again. He's probably not going to get to manage a team that's that. So to the point, it's not that he's not good anymore, because there's every chance that he comes in and wins an FA Cup or a League Cup with Everton, or gets them European qualification. I could see Rafa Benitez taking an Everton side and winning the Conference League or winning the Europa League, because I don't think squad-wise they're miles off being competitive. And you look at what's there. Football's moved on a bit, and this is why Mourinho's fallen flat on his face again. But to go and create like an environment, like a us against the world mentality, Rafa's brilliant at that. That's why Newcastle loved him. That's why we loved them. That's why Napoli fans loved him. That's why Valencia fans loved him, because he's brilliant. Chelsea, it was too much. There was too much baggage. You could see Rafa doing something. Look at the other managers.
So I can't see him doing anything with Everton's squad, because I think that he has to play in a way that Everton fans won't want. Remember the school of science, right? So,
I love that. Like it's somehow a free-flowing thing. Science and not a really meticulously drawn out thing.
So first of all, you've got the style of play, which I don't think they'd enjoy to watch. Secondly, I don't think anyone's getting it in the Capital One Cup, because it's City's trophy nowadays. I don't think they're good enough to win the FA Cup, and I think if they want to challenge for Europe, they've got to sack the cups off anyway, because the squad's not good enough and big enough to do that.
Yeah, but they've got money, haven't they? And that's the thing.
And Rafa's not spent it in 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
Going back Napoli, maybe.
But
so what's his track record recently? We're talking about the trophies that he could win with Everton. He's not won one in 8 years.
Yeah.
So is it like, all right, well, we're just saying the last 8 years don't count?
No. But how many of them years were in China?
2.
Yeah. Well, that's what.
And then 3 in England.
Yeah.
And then there was 3 or 4 in Napoli, wasn't it? Yeah, but it doesn't really count, does it?
So winning the league doesn't count?
Not that one.
Oh, right. Because it's devastating to your points. Right, okay, Shah.
You also got the relegated to win a trophy. The lengths he'll go to. This backs your points up to win a trophy.
There's not many managers can win trophies. And the people who do win them are at the best clubs. And Rafa's certainly not been anywhere near that top level of club for years.
Look at the other managers who are in that top 10 in the Premier League. If Rafa was to come in, and look, I'm not. Again, I just like Rafa. I think he's good, and I don't buy into the notion that he's just shit, and he's not. And he's got as good a chance of doing anything because he's a cup specialist, and he always has been. The idea that he plays crap football is a bit of a misremembrance. He builds from there. He makes a team solid, and then he adds good players on top. We played some brilliant football.
We used to win games 4-0 all the time. Remember Real Madrid,
exactly.
Manchester United.
But he has to get there, of course. You've got to earn the right to get there. But what he does is he gets good goalies, he gets good centre halves, and he's got a good solid style of play. And then when he's got that, if he adds the sprinkle on top, you get really good footy out of Rafa. Don't think he'd last that long to get that from Everton. But they're not that far away. They've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, who are good enough to be in a Rafa front three, regardless. So once again, they're not. Our point is they're not a million miles away, and also I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to challenge us, which is the ultimate point. But I look at the managers around that top 10. Like Leicester just won the FA Cup, and I know Leicester have got bits and pieces, but they've just had some smart recruitment, and they've got a decent manager, and they've built towards that, and they've done okay. There's no way Everton in two seasons couldn't get themselves into a position where they could win silverware. It's just not outside.
I just don't think that he would with him. I don't think he gets the 2 years.
Yeah, well, that's the point, isn't it? Fucking hell. Right, Liverpool content on the Redmen podcast. Liverpool want 10 million for Nico. Apparently, he's going to push for a move. Neil Jones has said that Southampton will be front of the queue. Wolves, Leeds, Burnley, Villa, Norwich also credited with interest. Chris will be talking to Neil Jones about that later on this week. But Dad, I felt it was a bit of a mad one. I mean, I can understand it. Trent Alexander-Arnold is the best right back in the world, and it must be quite frustrating for anyone to sit underneath him. But it came out a bit like, you know, he wants to push for a move after the Euros. Kind of tainted it a bit, because I've been enjoying the little sprinklings of watching Nico Williams. I think there's a real player there, and this is not like losing Keanu Hoover. This, you know, I think Nico's good enough to be in the Liverpool squad next season.
Yeah, I think he's quite a decent right back. And I think it would be, if you can keep him, I would keep him, because you don't want to go into the season like we did last season, when we didn't bring in enough cover for our centre-backs. To go into the season with, say, Gomez, who's just coming back from injury, as our cover at right back, or James Milner, I've heard people say. God help us. That would just be stupid. So don't sell him unless you've got a decent replacement for him. And you know, Brennan is a good right back as well, but he's very young and inexperienced. You know, would you want him going into a semi-final of a Champions League? You know, because Trent picked up an injury. I'm not so sure you would.
Yeah.
So no, keep him at all costs. But you know, if he does go, then you know, use the money to buy another one.
We need one of these every summer, don't we, Ben? We need to have one position in the team that we can just have an underlying level of fume about at all times. You know, social media needs to have reasons to post content, and you know, bracing ourselves for a season where James Milner is nominally our second choice right back is another one of them. I mean, God, you know, this goes all the way back to Milner being our first choice left back. We've had like five years of these similar type of problems. Liverpool are making it clear, you know, in the briefing with all this, because all the journalists are saying this, that they're not looking to buy. They feel they've got cover. And the thing that I guess kind of made me go, is the idea that Joe Gomez is on the comeback trail and is now going to be back into the pool of right backs. Nah.
I don't get it. It's just, you know, we talk about all the time.
Sorry, Ben, it was a perfect.
It was like, oh my God, why?
It's like I don't. We talk all the time about how Liverpool's creativity comes from the fullbacks. So, and centre backs don't do that as much. So, if you're going to put a centre back at right back, you're losing a massive part of Liverpool, the way Liverpool play. You know, a massive weapon in our arsenal, if you like. You know, so for me, I think the question for Nico Williams is where does he think he's going to play? As in, like which club? Does he think he's going to get a Premier League move? And if he does, and he thinks he's going to play all the time, then fine. But I'd argue that playing on a relatively inconsistent basis, but you know, if you can get him in the cups and stuff, I'd argue that playing for Liverpool at this stage of his career, maybe getting 10, 15 games for Liverpool over the course of the season, is better for him than playing 42 games in the Championship. That's my opinion, right? Because I think he's I think he's just about best. I think he's a good Championship player if he was going to play every week. But I don't think he's going to gain anything from playing in the Championship every week. I think he's going to be better off being around this squad. But if he thinks he's going to be able to get a Premier League move and he's going to be able to get consistent games at a Premier League side, then I think that's a different story. But for me, I'd be saying to Nico, keep with us for another season. You know, we've got a. I don't think 10 million's enough, basically. I don't think that 10 million to go and put that then towards another right back that's apparently better than Nico Williams and is going to be able to be a backup and is going to be happy to do the role that Nico Williams was doing. I don't think you're going to be able to get much for that, to be honest, anymore. And especially not the type of right back that we want. Yeah. Nico Williams is good on the ball. He can cross the ball. I just don't. If we can keep hold of him, I'd definitely keep hold of him.
I would keep hold of him, even if he asked. I mean, it says to me that he's probably knocked on the door of Klopp's office and gone, planning on moving him into midfield anytime soon. He's gone, no, son, and he's gone, I think it's time to move on then, because I'm not getting past him. Now, there's a couple of ways you can look at that, isn't there? He doesn't have the belief in himself that he can oust Trent. He doesn't think that Trent might get an injury where he goes in and seizes his opportunity, like Trent got into the first team over Nathaniel Clyne, by the way. At England's right back at the time, one of the best in the country. Trent seized his opportunity. And I'm surprised that Nico didn't look at that and think, I can get in at some point. I just need that opportunity and I can get in there. But I also like the fact that players want to play football. I'll never begrudge somebody asking to go somewhere else to play football. Yeah. I just don't think it's the right move.
Well, you've got to have the right mentality to be a squad player at Liverpool. You know, it's a different skill set. You can be brilliant at footy, but you've got to be able to be ready to go on a the drop of a hat. You've got to be able to be committed in training all the time. You've got to be empowered in different sort of ways. I look at him and go,
you're in the starting blocks permanently, waiting for the gun to go off,
and that must be such a
hard thing to do. Can I tell you the time to get worried? When Klopp comes out and says Fabinho can play there, because we've been there before. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Fabinho can play right back, lads. I'm like, no, sign someone now.
10 million quid, because again, let's use Keanu Hoover, and I think he's better than him, so I don't think this would necessarily
happen. They wanted Williams at the time, I think, Wolves.
Yeah, well, look, the thing is, Keanu goes to Wolves, gets given, like, the number, does he get even given the shirt? And then they sign Nelson Semedo the week later, and Semedo is the first choice down that side for a lot of that season. So you don't know. Liverpool's history is littered. I always refer back to all of Cy Hughes' books are littered with footballers who go, I wish I'd just stuck it out. I wish I'd just stayed and fought for it. And I just wonder whether it's the way being away with the Wales and he's looking at it and going, there's lads in that Welsh team who aren't playing for Premier League teams and not playing for Premier League teams, and you might be looking at, like Joe Allen's had a Premier League career, but he's playing Championship football, but he's a first name on the Wales team sheet, and maybe he can get himself to be Wales' first choice week in, week out by playing just playing football. He's got a better chance of doing that and being more dependable and being considered dependable at international level, because these are the considerations for him. If we got £10 million, I think Liverpool have done really well here, because I think they've got out in front of this and gone. Go on, Dad.
The folly for us would be making the mistake of thinking that you only need a cover at right back for 2 or 3 games a season and the odd cup game. We saw that last year, as Chris mentioned, with Fabinho. We were all talking about, Fabinho can come in and play the odd game as a centre-back if necessary. And he ends up playing practically the whole bloody season as centre-back. And that could happen with our, reserve right back. He could, Trent could get it. He could play Everton and Pickford could just take his head off, and that could be the end of his season. And we need a right back, and suddenly we're playing, a kid or something for the season.
And it also seems more likely that you get an injury to one player and have your backup play, and then an injury to 4 fucking centre halves before Fabinho gets thrown there. Yeah. And yet we were there, weren't we? That's what we went through.
There's 2 thoughts on this I have, because Jamie Carragher, Ben's put forward Oxlade-Chamberlain as a potential cover situation for this. And again, I'm not saying that I'm like, okay, sound, because Oxlade-Chamberlain, he played wing back a bit for Arsenal, didn't he? And that was very much one of the reasons why he was open to a move. Of course, I wouldn't be overly enamoured with that situation. I can understand it. Actually, if you look at the squad, I'd much rather have Oxlade. There's games where I would definitely pick Ox over Gomez at right back, and I think Gomez is a really good right back, by the way. I think there's no. It's fair to say you still got picked a couple of seasons ago. You're still getting picked in the big games at fullback for us, so it's not changed massively. I think it will depend on what Liverpool are looking to do, because this notion, we say it, Liverpool's creativity comes from the fullbacks. Well, what if it doesn't? What if it's not? What if we don't need it to? What if because again, we're looking at a piece of it. We're looking at a piece of a puzzle. We're not looking at the whole picture at the moment. What if Liverpool are having a shift? What if they're saying it's actually not so essential anymore? I don't necessarily agree with all of this, but the Gomez thing would say, go and get a right. You go and get a more traditional right back. because your creativity, because your right back isn't becoming the be all and end all anymore.
The only thing wrong with that is that we're going to be playing with Trent week in, week out, so we're still going to be getting the creativity from the flanks. To suddenly say he drops out and we don't need the creativity anymore, we'll change our style.
Yeah,
that doesn't.
But there is no. But Nico Williams isn't that though, is he?
No, he does go forward and he does get crosses in, as Ben said.
I think he's more that than Joe Gomez.
Yeah.
But he's also not a senior. He's not with any of his says there. You know what I mean? He's not.
I think your dad's point was that it's clearly not something that Liverpool are planning, because they're planning for Trent to be the right back.
Yeah.
So it's not a plan going forward to change the right back position while Trent's in the side, because you just wouldn't.
Yeah, but
it's part of building the squad, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, but I'm sure they didn't plan. I'm sure they were planning for Virgil van Dijk to be the centre back last season. You know what I mean? It feels silly to go through, and it's the same in midfield for me. It feels silly to go through what we went through last season, and then go, oh well, that won't happen again. When it definitely can happen again. You know what I mean? Like, and we're even shorter at right back, because you've got two centre-backs on the pitch at all times, so you end up having more centre-backs in reserve. We've only got one right-back if Nico Williams goes, one natural right-back. There's been some other kid who's probably about 15 has been thrown into the ring yesterday. I can't even remember his name, but he's also been suggested that he's quite well-liked in the academy. But you can't just keep doing that, you know what I mean? You've got to, I mean, we signed Tsimikas on the left, didn't we? And that's not quite worked out yet, but Robertson was fit all of last season and we needed him, so fair enough. But if Robertson broke his ankle tonight playing for Scotland, then at least I'd know we'd have Kostas Tsimikas, who's a trained senior left back, and okay, it's not ideal, but it's better than playing a kid there. You know what I mean? It just seems silly to me. If you can keep holding him, because he knows the way that Liverpool play. He's attuned to the system. I didn't think we'd have this headache at right back at this point in the transfer window. I thought our headaches were going to be getting somebody for the front three, or getting another midfield player in a junior replacement, or even sign another centre-back. And now to throw another spanner into the works, we might need another right-back as well.
The thing with all this, though, is that, as with every football club, there's a limited budget, and you've also got to move with the situation. If Nico Williams is coming in and going, I don't want to play for you anymore, well then, you're just not going to... It's Nico Williams. I really like Nico Williams, but by and large, it's going to go, all right, Sam, well, we'll solve that problem, because as much as we roll our eyes at Milner at right back, Milner's probably still a better right back than Nico Williams, probably. You know what I mean? He's certainly more dependable. You certainly know what you're not going to get like that Nico Williams left-footed cross to the back post that he did for Kurt, was it, or something? Last season. Yeah, you're not necessarily going to get that out of Milner, but you are going to get a bunch of solid games out of that. You might find that this kid has got more to his game. I've not seen him, so I can't comment on that. But also, there's also a degree to it. Sorry, Dad, where 10 million quid. If Liverpool are saying no one might value him at 10 million, you know what I mean? People might want to pay 5 for him, and then you keep him anyway. It's not like he's sold. And if you get 10 million, Liverpool might go, well, we can put that 10 million and go and buy something that we actually, fuck it, the Mbappe.
It seems to me a bit short-sighted, because I suspect he'll be worth a lot more money in a year or two. By which time we will have someone who's ready to replace him. So it just seems to be jumping the gun a bit. He's had half a game for Wales, and we suddenly think his value is at its highest. Yeah, that seems short-sighted.
Liverpool can get a player in for 10 million who's better than Nico Williams, but the likelihood of it on a rush, because it probably isn't somewhere they planned for. Doesn't feel like Nico Williams went in 6 months ago and said, I'm probably going to move on in the summer. This is broken from the Euros camp. Yeah. So they always have their eyes on everything, don't they? But it doesn't feel like they've been searching for a backup right back, because they've had a backup right back. Yeah. And then you're entering into rush territory. And I would maybe say to him, look, we'll maybe look at January or in the summer. Yeah. But right now, you haven't given us enough time, mate. And to be honest with you, we actually don't think it's the right thing for your career either, because just sort of like what Ben was saying, he'd probably be better for staying around for another year anyway. Yeah. Maybe not going and going as a player.
Has he got a new agent? That would tell you a lot.
But it says to me that if Liverpool are saying 10 million, then they're happy to deal at 10 million, because you wouldn't say 10 million. and every player's got a value, and there's a degree to which I think there's a player out there, and we don't know his name, player or players, and we did this last summer, but we didn't ever really talk about it this way. Is that there's probably 2 targets.
Well, the Jamal Lewis Costas Tsimikas thing, it was 12 million. They wanted to spend 10.
Yeah, you got 2 targets, and they're going to cost X amount of thing. You've got X amount in the bank, and you've got a bunch of assets, and it's Michael Edwards sat there going, "How do I make £50 million? I've got £10 million. And some of that will be dependent on bids. So if we get £15 million bids for Origi, Shaqiri, and Wilson and Grujic in the next before the Euros are out or the week after the Euros, then you probably turn around to Nico and go, "Nah, soz. Unlucky, you're staying." But look, there's no way Liverpool would have been. I think Liverpool would have kept Ryan Brewster in an ideal situation, but they wanted Thiago Alcantara and Jota, and they needed to find a way to generate that money. And all of a sudden, here comes Sheffield United knocking with 24 million quid, and that's their value. They've met their valuation on it, and I think there's a bunch of those players that we don't think are priorities to shift out. But there are probably here's who we definitely want, and here's who kind of players that we don't feel will miss too badly. There's calculated gambles in everything that Liverpool do. Nico feels to us like a little bit of one of that because
that's
we
because
think he's a good player.
That's because the only difference there, sorry John, is that
It's all right.
you're selling your only backup right back, so you're going to have to replace him.
But you're not, though, are you?
Yeah.
Because James Milner's your backup right back.
Yeah, I think you need to replace him.
No, I'm not saying. That's personal opinion.
Yeah, of course it is. But then this is what football is. It's all personal opinions. It's Klopp's personal opinions.
But you're saying we're selling our only right back. That's not a fact. That's
okay. It's personal
James Milner's not a right
James
back.
Milner's not.
No,
he's not a right back,
but
and he's not good
is
enough to play right back if Liverpool, I think, want to win the league.
But is he better than Nico Williams?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But the point remains is that Liverpool might think that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm saying, no, he's not.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
I mean, Liverpool need to sign a right back if they sell him.
10 million is good money for Nico Williams. I've no doubt that's good. If you got 10 million for him, I think you've done really well. But you're depleting your squad, and I don't know anyone, any fan anyway, who thinks our squad good enough yet.
Yeah.
So to start, chipping away at the edges again is stupid.
My point on the Milner thing, by the way, is that if they're prepared to let Milner and Gomez and this other kid, then Nico Williams probably isn't as good as we think he is. Is the only way I'd look at it, because we're sat here like going, "What, Liverpool are crazy?" Liverpool aren't. They're not, though, are they? You know what I mean? Is that we're probably slightly better off than we think we are, because I can't imagine they would massively
destabilise. We're sitting off the back of the season where we let Dejan Lovren go, and everyone was going, "Don't let Dejan Lovren go without replacing him."
Yeah. Oh, no, it's not like they don't have form for making a mistake, is it?
Oh God, oh no, 100%. But again, it's from a position of anxiety rather than the anxiety and unknowns. And again, it's not like
about the chip in the squad away. We've still got a midfielder to replace.
Yeah.
Without Gini Wijnaldum, 51 games. We've spoken about it enough times. You've lost a midfielder. You're potentially losing a right back. Now, Liverpool might have it all under control. They might have bids already accepted, and they might be talking to players. But right now, we don't know that.
Exactly.
So for where we are right now, it looks crazy to me.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I think I don't agree that it's a good idea to sell Nico Williams, but what I'm saying is we're doing it already. We've just said prepare ourselves for everyone to fume for weeks and weeks over this right back thing, and we've all just gone just fine. It'll probably be fine again, because let's be honest, it's again, to put it down, I like Nico. I do. I think he's a really, really good footballer. I'd love to see him fulfill his potential at Liverpool. But I've seen, again, on the scale of things, I thought letting Ryan Brewster go was crazy. Crazy. Because what a talent he was. What an absolute amazing talent. And didn't score a Premier League goal.
But it begins to look
and we bought other people.
It begins to look like they said, "Oh, we've got Konate in now. We can let Nico Williams go because we've got a defender in." I mean, it's just so short.
But it's not. But I just don't think it's that at all. Again, because it's not like Liverpool are letting him go. Liverpool, he wants to go, and Liverpool have set a valuation. Liverpool have said £10 million for a lad who's played a handful of senior games for us in the Premier League, and of course is getting in the Wales squad or whatever. it's not like they've not gone have him for free. Or people saying, there's people saying, but there's people saying send them out on loan for a year. Well, hang on a second, like,
no, that doesn't work.
Exactly, you know what I mean. But most of us would probably actually say, no, do send them out on loan for a year. Well, that's worse because that doesn't stop. But
you wouldn't say that when Suarez wanted to go or when Coutinho wanted to go. You didn't say we've had a bid for him, so we've set a price. Let's let them go. Yeah. The club have the right to say, sorry, Nico. We actually don't think it's a good time for the club for you to leave.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe next year or the year after.
But that's my point, is that if they're not saying that and they're publicly briefing, they're briefing journalists. No, but they're briefing journalists. They're briefing journalists that he's got a 10 million price instead of going, sorry, he's not for sale. Why?
Because he's asked.
I don't know.
And Klopp said okay.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Because Klopp's done that before when players have wanted to go.
So why are we asked?
Well, because it's not the right move for the club. No, because it's not the right move for the club. Because Klopp's a humanist at heart and wants to do the players right. Yeah. So if I think Klopp will make mistakes in letting players go because he wants to be a nice person.
But he kept Lovren for a season more.
He should have kept him for 2 years more.
No. True enough. Yeah. No, absolutely. But what my point is on that is that if he wanted Nico to stay. If Jurgen Klopp goes to Nico Williams, no, mate, I want you to stay, need to stay, he just would. Again, my point is, I think we're just making loads more of this than we need to. But it's been a lovely talking point of something to get impassioned about on a random Tuesday in June. And getting fuming about a 20-year-old fucking fullback who's done nothing for us. Great.
Who you really like?
Put some respect on James Milner's name, you fucking minge bags. Right. On that, and Nico Williams, I think it feeds into a little bit I wanted to chat about, which is going to be the major talking points of the podcast, as evidenced by the title and thumbnail, but we're going to have to do very, very quickly now. Normally we talk about the problems of shopping at major tournaments, and you see players, we had this last week when we were going, well, who would you like? Who have you liked? And everyone's going, Calvin Phillips, is that even his name? The England midfielder from Leeds with the weird haircut, and everyone was like, oh yeah, he's amazing, and then he was shite against Scotland, and everyone stopped talking about him. I think there's a possibility here, Chris, and maybe Nico's part of this. But Shaqiri stands out to me. He scored 2 wonderful goals for Switzerland against Turkey, and how I wonder whether we're going to flip this on our head. So we're not going to have a Diao style situation, but I'm hoping everyone else is thick and just gets dead excited, and I'm hoping there's a ton of Premier League teams from 8th to 20th in the Premier League and maybe top 5 in the Championship or whatever have gone, oh, that Shaqiri looks good. Oh, imagine what he could bring to us.
But Shaqiri is good. He's just not a good fit.
It's just not good for us.
That's the problem. He's been that one man. He's been the focal point of a team before. We saw it at Stoke. He was brilliant there. And he's brilliant for Switzerland. He's now scored their most goals in a major tournament ever with 7 or something, where I think he, at one point during the game it was obviously 6 shared with somebody. So Shaqiri can do it, and Shaqiri's a really good player, and he gets an assist as well in this tournament so far and stuff like that. There's going to be loads of players out there who go, loads of managers out there who go, yeah, I want him in my side because he's a good player, not because they're duped. Yeah. But I think when we come on to some of the other players, you can be duped. But Shaqiri for me is a good player.
Yeah, but it's funny, Ben, because I get the Gini Wijnaldum comparisons actually quite funny. I've not really seen anyone really saying this, but everyone's just waxing lyrical about Gini Wijnaldum. They should do. He's great. I love Gini. But he's another example of that. He's when you have a team almost built around. I don't think the Dutch team is quite built around Gini, but he does play a much more central, important role for that team than he ever did for Liverpool in an attacking sense. But again, look at him. He's playing more of a 10 for the Dutch. Shaqiri gets to do that for the Swiss and gets to impress on the national stage. I just find it. There's going to be there's loads of eyes on these players. It's just a shame that Gini Wijnaldum didn't have a year left on his contract, because we'd be getting 50 million for him this summer. I think if we still had him for this tournament.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about it the other way, because I think people seem to be, obviously they've maybe not watched a lot of Holland, and I'm not saying that I sit and watch every Holland game, but I think as Liverpool fans we were already aware of this. We were already aware of what role he plays for the national team, and now obviously because they didn't qualify for the World Cup, obviously people had missed that opportunity to see him do that, and now they're going, oh, well, look at this. And everybody's shocked, and we're a little bit like, yeah, no, I was already aware that he could do that. And obviously, it's not like he's been wasted under Klopp for all these years. I think he's been very, very good in that role. And we've talked about the way that Liverpool get their goals and creativity. Liverpool's midfield isn't known for the creativity necessarily. That we've got some creative players, but in Chamberlain and Keita, in Chamberlain and Keita, we've not seen that as much from them because of the injuries and stuff. So Liverpool's midfield has been very, workhorse-like, and that's what Gini's been asked to do, and he's done it very, very well. Now, he's gone to a tournament, he's been asked to play a different role, and he can play that. But if he'd been put a right back for the Netherlands and done that really well, we wouldn't be sat here going, oh, well, why hasn't Klopp used him as a right back all this time? It's just what he's doing.
I might be actually at this point.
Yeah.
Especially if Nico's going to be getting thrown out the door.
10 million. Why do you give contract to Wijnaldum and throw him there?
Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, there's a few players out there. I think Wijnaldum's one of them. Obviously, he's not going to be a target for us. He's moved on. He's made a decision. But like Gosens for Germany, Locatelli for Italy, Dumfries for the Netherlands is another one. These are all players that we've already been aware of. But international tournaments, they do have a track record of giving players their big break. I remember James Rodriguez, watching him score that stunner for Colombia in 2014. He's gone on and he's had a good career off the back of that goal, off the back of that tournament. It happens.
Yeah. I think the Gini Wijnaldum point's perfect, actually, that Ben makes there, of like, it's like everyone becomes like football scouts at major tournaments, like no one else is watching these things. Like you've got to, it's your own individual eye for talent. Or I've spotted this lad. And we all do it. We can't help but do. There are shining lights in tournaments. And you see, but there's loads of examples where, I'm sure there's examples where it works out really well, but there's also tons of examples where lads do just shine on those stages, but never quite cut it when you bring them to your own football club.
Absolutely. I mean, James Rodriguez is the standout one for me as well, because he was absolutely fabulous in that tournament. And then his problem was that he went to a club who were probably too big for him. Real Madrid just didn't want to play him. And if he'd come and played every week, he might well have had a better career and not ended up at Everton. I mean, we all remember Juve from Yao, don't we? I mean, I'm not sure that they weren't scouted long before the tournament, but they actually did stand out in the tournament as being brilliant, and then came to Liverpool and weren't.
Yeah.
So it's fraught with danger. As for Gini, he scored goals for every club he played for, and he'll probably score goals, for Paris Saint-Germain. It's just that we didn't want to play him that way. And the big loss for us is a player who played every game.
Yeah, we're not crying for that Gini Wijnaldum. We're crying for the Gini Wijnaldum because he plays 50 games a season. Yeah. None of us is really. I mean, we are. I
don't want the 10 Gini Wijnaldum. I want my old Gini Wijnaldum.
What's the point? There's no point of that Gini Wijnaldum because it doesn't fit. It's different. Again, it's mad because we forget this sometimes, but it's the different levels. International footy is not as good as Premier League football. It's not. It's just not. And as evidenced by Gini Wijnaldum's performances and by Shaqiri's performances, both good footballers, and this might seem like I'm somehow down, I'm not. They're brilliant. They're good enough to play for one of the best football teams on the planet. For Liverpool, and Gini's moving on to another one of the big clubs, etc. But it's different, and that's what the problem is. I mean, you see this. Look at Gareth Bale, for God's sake. Gareth Bale's been world class for a long time. Look at him playing for Wales. Oh my God, he's tearing around, he's fighting for everything, he's giving an actual shit about playing football. But he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that during the season. Remember, Eden Hazard had an entire season of being awful for Chelsea until he then got to the last end when he came to Anfield and tore us apart, and then gets himself just good enough so he can go and be at that level for international tournaments. Football is just, it's
just so much more detailed, I think, in like Premier League and Serie A and all that type of stuff. You mean the scouting that goes into it, the game plans that go into it, the work on the training ground. You're reliant more on talent in international tournaments, and that's where the talented players always shine. Yeah. But for every Shaqiri and for every sort of Gareth Bale in this tournament and other lads that go on and play really well for the country, there's the Steven Gerrards that don't. Yeah. And who are better players than all of the ones that I've mentioned, who the system might not have worked for. on the international level, you know, and they're the players that I'm more interested in. They're the ones where you go, actually, what a great club player. Why couldn't he do it there? Why couldn't he do it in those international tournaments? Because the manager, they didn't get the best out of him. They don't have the time on the training ground and all that type of stuff. So it's a mad thing. There's loads of players who are amazing who just don't play well at the international tournaments.
Shout here from... Sorry, go on, Dad.
Sorry, I'm going to say it's summed up for me. The difference between club football and international football is that Gareth Bale, as part of a team, is terrific. When he's carrying Wales, if he's not terrific, then it really stands out like a sore thumb. And when he missed that sitter the other day, which would have got them a point in Italy, you know, it just the whole world seemed to open up before him. I mean, it was just, you know, that if your superstar can't do it when you need him to, then, you know, what's the point? Whereas when he's in a club, it's not just him. You know, it's a lot of talented footballers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. A great shout here, actually, from Broccoli Pasta in the comments saying, "Oi, Renato Sanchez is the replacement for Gini." I was watching that; he was brilliant. But I was like, oh my God, like here's another example of one. He will probably finally get that a big. I don't even know. Is he still at Bayern? I've lost track of his career.
He's at Lille. I'm pretty sure he's at Lille.
Well, it's mad. It's mad, isn't it? How you'd have players who they come up and then they disappear and they come up and, you know, he was available for loan for like 2 years from Bayern Munich when we were linked with him, and then. Now you come on and have a good... Yeah, it's funny. Very interesting stuff anyway. I just want to say welcome aboard to Stuart Macy, who's joined as a first teamer here, as a member here on YouTube. Thank you so much, Stuart. You get access to the custom votes in the live streams. And Connor S. With the super chat saying Everton not wanting a top manager says it all. It does, really, doesn't it? For those of you wondering, actually, YouTube members, if you are tier 2 or tier 3, which is Cult Hero, Wonder Kid and Cult Hero, you get one extra bonus show from us each and every week, which throughout the summer is the Reds Transfer Roundup show, 45 minutes to 60 minutes, talking through more in depth and detail about all Liverpool's transfers and big talking points of the week. Bit like what we've just done there, but more of it. You get that as your bonus show. So if you want that, if you want that plus all of the content that we do, then make sure you head over to theredmentv.com. Right, we just got one more bit to go of the show. We're going to take a very, very short break as well, because episode 3 of the Jordan Henderson documentary series is out this week. Have a little look at this.
He looked gone. He looked totally and utterly finished in the game.
Playing through serious pain in that.
So we created that night the phrase, "It's just pain."
I don't think we'll see a goal like it again. It's still crazy to think about now.
I cannot watch that until today without crying.
There wasn't a lot said because we were both crying quite a bit.
I had to all the tears back at certain points.
A night I will never forget in my life.
To give a special trophy to a special guy at a special football club, it doesn't get much better, does it?
Yes. The third and final part of our Jordan Henderson documentary series is out, streaming to all subscribers on the redmentv.com from Wednesday. It should be on early release for Club Legends tonight as well, if you're over there, so that'd be great. Just brilliant. Just want to get out just briefly from everyone, particularly Chris, who I know obviously caught up with everything now. I'm like beyond made up now. I know I've had a contributing hand in this. You've been very hands off on all of this. What's your favourite bit so far?
I think, well, I loved episode 1 because I learned more in episode 1 about him than I'd learned in the other 2. But some of the insight in episode 3 from Trent Alexander-Arnold, like for me, I've kind of walked away with the star of the show each time. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, for me, stole the show big time in episode 3. He was so funny. There was so much insight into the dressing room and into the person that Henderson is today. And it's funny because you glimpse it. Like, we've been lucky enough to interview Jordan a few times over the years. We've done quite a lot of stuff with him, all told. And you glimpse it and you wonder, I think that's what he's a bit like. And I think this, but having someone inside the dressing room tell you that that's what he's like, even just drawing on his own experiences from going to the World Cup and not having any mates there, you know, and Henderson being there and them training because he'd been to the Champions League final on the road and then starting to get more than a professional relationship and all that type of stuff. It was just brilliant. And like Kenny, the view from the outside, him talking about it, some cutting lines from Kenny, like just kills off everybody with one line, doesn't he? So then, and actually, what surprised me probably was Southgate. I think talking about Jordan and talking about your club and how he perceives Liverpool in the same way that I do, except I love it and he talks about it as your club. So there was loads to pull from it, but I think the biggest credit I can give to Shai and Ben and yourself is until your face cropped up, I kept forgetting I was watching a Redmen doc.
Yeah.
Like, because I was watching it before it goes live, make sure there's no errors and stuff like that. And I just found myself completely lost in it. That I wasn't thinking about picking my phone up. I wasn't thinking about what I was doing or anything else in life around it. And then I'd be like, oh, there's Paul. Right, shit, yeah, I'm watching a Redmen doc, mad.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
Yeah. Dad, I think you've watched the first one, maybe two?
1.5.
1.5. What's been your best bit so far?
I had trouble getting me sneak preview of the second one, so I was delayed watching that. So I haven't finished that one yet. What I like is that I'm fascinated by the journey of kids who play football and are good. I mean, I went to school with Mike Lyons, or Mick Lyons as he's known these days, who became captain of Everton. He was the best footballer I'd ever seen in my life. From 10 years onwards, he was just astonishingly good. He was the best cricketer. He's the best athlete. He was just brilliant. And he went and became captain of Everton, but he couldn't get a cap for England.
Yeah.
The best footballer I'd ever seen was not that good in terms of the talent that, you know, plays in the top level of football these days. Jordan Henderson, you know, the journey from how he gets from this little kid in Sunderland and how single-minded he is, not just to be talented, but to use that talent to drive himself on to the top echelons of Premier League football. That, you know, it's so fascinating. It's and the documentary, certainly the first one, shows an awful lot of what drove him on, even as a kid. You know, he had that determination and he stood out for his strength of character, not just his talent. And it can't just be talent, it has to be something else. And it starts to show that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops.
Yeah, and Ben, obviously, Chris mentioned the Southgate stuff. We talked about it a little bit last week, but I think that's the one thing I've actually got. It's funny when everyone's losing their heads, because I'm quite, you know, we've said this before, I'm quite England, like, indifferent, to be honest. I'm happy for people to be totally bought into it, but I'm not totally bought into it myself, so that's fine. But seeing people slaughtering Southgate, I've actually got loads more time for him, because he was just, he's clearly such an intelligent fella. He clearly gets it. He clearly understands country, Liverpool, football culture, all of those sorts of things. It comes across really well.
Yeah, and I think he makes an effort to do that. I mean, I think, you know, I think that people are giving Southgate a hard rap, to be honest. I think he's so far, I think he's doing okay. And I think actually on a human level, he's one of the best ambassadors for the country and for the national team that we need at the moment. I mean, I read his open letter for the Players' Tribune last week that was really, really well written, and he does get it. And I think he makes an effort. He says in the full interview that, you know, I'm not quite sure when that's being released, but he talks about kind of the frosty relationship between Liverpool and England, and he has an awareness of that. And he went out of his way to comment on that, and he clearly goes out of his way to have an understanding of that and understand what that is. And I think he does get it, and I think he's a fantastic guy. And I think he spoke really well, and I think he gave some really good insight into what Jordan's like as a person. We spoke to him around the time that the Super League was going on, and he made comments about how Jordan, you know, he said Jordan's just a player with those kind of issues that just sees the bigger picture. You know, when I think he said a lot of captains, I think want to go and do the things that Jordan does, but sometimes you need somebody to just go and do it, and Jordan does do that. And I think, you know, as I say, I think I said this last week, everybody's just had so much time to speak about him and want to talk about him. And Southgate was, I think, one of the main ones with that, because it's really difficult to get an interview with the England manager. But from what I'm led to believe, Southgate was just asked and he went, yeah, all right, because he wants to talk about Jordan Henderson. And I think that sums it up.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing. We had it the same. Jürgen, no problem. Stevie, no problem. Cara, no problem. Kenny, no problem, mad. And and again, we live in a world where we ask these people for things. We do. We try for various things, and most of them go, "I'm sorry, I'm busy," or "I can't," or just no a lot of the time. There's even people who aren't in it who said yes, but we just couldn't. The schedule didn't work for it. Like Brendan Rodgers is a good example. Unfortunately, we just couldn't get Brendan Rodgers in time for it. So yeah, fascinating stuff, and yeah, you're not unlike anywhere else. I know LFC TV did something on his 10-year anniversary, but even the guys behind the LFC TV one message to say like theirs is nowhere near the depth and scale of what we've managed to put together. So if you need something to keep you going, the first episode is free on YouTube right now. If you just want to preview that, if you've not seen it already, episodes 2 and 3 are exclusive to our streaming platform, the redmentv.com, which is like a bit of a Netflix for Liverpool fans. But yeah, the first episode's like 45 minutes, the second one's an hour 15, the third one's 90 minutes. There's a lot in there, and just spoilers, there's a lot of silverware in episode 3.
That was the thing, because I like 30 minutes in, and I'm like, oh, we've got a lot of silverware still to win here. I'm like, how much is left? An hour? And I was like, yes, an hour of talking about Liverpool winning trophies. Go on.
The Madrid stuff, because obviously Madrid's in there, and it feels like you could wrap it up at Madrid, and it's like, oh God, we won the league as well, didn't we? Still got the whole league, the league to go, and you get to that, and I know the season was a bit shit, but you still got this. That
reminds me of probably my favourite line in all of it is Trent talking about the Premier League season and how the form would never drop off, and he kind of catches himself that he realises he's talking to a fan and goes, not like this season, but fucking shit.
It's very, very open, from brilliant chat and insights. And as I say, look, I know there's a bunch of people who are saying, is it coming out on YouTube? It's not coming out on YouTube because obviously we're trying to make sure that we build something proper, and we're not able to do this on YouTube. Look, the simple fact of the matter is, I know there's people who do brilliant things on YouTube, and we love our YouTube platform. It's great. But it just doesn't. There's a reason these things aren't on YouTube, is because YouTube does not deliver the ability to fund these kind of things. So we're going above and beyond. And to be honest, we always have. So we've got bonus content, bonus material, just like these kind of shows. More of this stuff. If you want more of this stuff, more Redmen TV. But we've also got a full suite of Liverpool content, interviews, features, documentaries, feature-length documentaries, documentary series, tons of them, loads of now to keep you entertained and give you more and get you more versed in Liverpool culture and all those kind of things. So yeah, if you want a Netflix for Liverpool fans, then go and sign up to the redmentv.com and get episode 3 for everyone on Wednesday, but also streaming early for Club Legend subscribers from tonight as well. So yeah, that would be absolutely wonderful. Gents, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure, far more in-depth and heated than I ever expected to get over Rafa Benitez and Nico Williams in 2021 during the summer transfer break. But here we go, more to come from us. Check back for the podcast next week. Check out the Hendo doc. We love you guys, and we'll see you all soon. Ta-ra. Hey everyone, we've got a fantastic competition for you right now running for our Club Legend subscribers on the redmentv.com. It is this very, very special, very limited edition Liverpool medals framed collection. Yes, remember when Liverpool were the champions of everything? Well, yes, look back on it fondly with these wonderful, shiny, pristine medals to hang on your wall. To enter, all you have to do is sign up at Club Legend level over on the redmentv.com, or upgrade your existing subscription over there, and yes, you are entered into our monthly prize draw for this fantastic prize. There is a fantastic prize each and every month for those subscribers. Last month we gave away a brilliant auto pen signed Liverpool team shirt, and yes, there are a whole host of amazing prizes to come throughout the year as well, and you get a whole host of bonus features as a Club Legend subscriber: early access to special content, free tickets to live events, free merchandise, and a whole host more as well. Get over to the redmentv.com, sign up and get yourself in the draw.